Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. Here to do a live Q&A. It's been a while, been a hot minute, but we're back and we're ready to get some questions going. So, as always, be sure to use the super chat features if you want to. Make sure your question gets answered. And thanks for tuning in on this Saturday morning. So, that being said, my name is Steven. I am your host. Joining me, as always, are my guys Tyler and Alex. Alex and I are matching today, as you can see, both wearing the Spanish Heritage t-shirts today. So, Alex, I think you had a good night last night, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I had a good last night. I get to see the Lakers lose and LeBron misses a buzzer beater. Just great content. And then James Harden plays with the Sixers. Awesome. So sorry, Lakers Chargers fans.
Yeah, the Lakers are a hot mess. I think that Frank Vogel is one of the worst coaches in the league. So that's always fun. Tyler is here as well, man. Tyler is the one of us that is like dressed nice today. So Tyler, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. I don't have a Mexican shirt, but my fiance is Mexican, and I'm going to a Mexican restaurant after this. So we all are on the same page here, I think.
What's the spot today?
Las Brisas in Laguna, I think.
Okay. I think I've heard of that place. So always down for some good Mexican food. Obviously, California is the best in that regard. So, like I said, hit us up with some questions if you're here. If you want to, if you are so obliged, the super chat feature is enabled. So we always appreciate those. TV question off the bat: Succession or Ozark? Have you guys seen either of those shows yet?
I have not watched Succession. I rarely watch TV as is, so currently Ozark.
Yeah, I've watched both of them. I like Succession a little bit better, but I also like Ozark. I haven't watched Ozark season 4A yet. So no spoilers for that in the chat, but I'm trying to get on that.
Yeah, I've only watched the first season of Succession. I am behind. I love Ozark, man. Ozark's a top 5 show for me all time. I think it's one of the best shows ever, and I love Jason Bateman. Seeing him go from the funny guy to watching him play this like dry accountant, money launderer for a drug cartel. It is just really interesting to me, and I do think in general it's really close. And so. Alex, you better hurry up, man, because season 4B I think comes out like next month. So
it's that soon. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm protesting out of principle here. Ever since Breaking Bad did the season 5A 5B thing, people have been doing it. Just give it to me all in one sitting.
It really is, man. And honestly, I blame Harry Potter for all this splitting things up, because really up until that point it was not a thing. And then it was like Hunger Games split up, and then one of my favorite shows, Vikings, splits up, and
Twilight,
Game of Thrones splits their season. So it's just a mess.
How into Twilight were you guys, or did you get dragged by any of your siblings or girlfriends or girls to that? Because I have 3 sisters, so I was very well versed in the Twilight saga.
Yeah, I mean, Twilight was right when I was in high school, and so I saw the first 2. I did not see the second 2. Or the last 2, I should say, because they split that one up too, right?
Yeah, the last one, Breaking Dawn.
Okay, so I saw the first 2. That was it. I never read the books. Brooke always wants me to rewatch them again with her, but I can't do it. It's just poor memories, so definitely not into that.
I was 9 years old when the first Twilight came out. And I didn't have any siblings, and I definitely didn't have any girlfriends at that time. So it sort of missed the Twilight boat, I think.
Count your blessings, man. But yeah, Ozark is a great show. I'm getting into Succession, so I'll keep that one. Tyler, Evan Airy wants to know, how excited are you for the Lord of the Rings series?
I was so excited for this series, and then I saw the trailer for the new series, and man, I'm just a bit worried. I want to see more. I'll give it time, but it just doesn't feel quite like the Lord of the Rings I grew up with, which is fine. I can live with that. But it looks like they're taking all of Tolkien's work and creating new characters and things from it, which isn't the worst thing, but like Tolkien's work is Tolkien's work, and Peter Jackson did such a great job focusing on the themes of the books and what Tolkien was trying to do. And if this series deviates from that, I'm a little bit worried. This is not a Lord of the Rings show, but I could definitely talk about it for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So I watched the trailer like on the TV, and on the TV, you got your Super Bowl party, and I was like, oh, that looks really good. And then I watched the trailer on Twitter again like the next day, and I totally get what you're saying. It definitely feels more Hobbity than Lord of the Rings. So I don't know. I'm willing to give it a chance. Obviously, it's just the trailer. You never really know, but I hope it's not more Hobbity. Like I thought The Hobbit was like entertaining-ish, but it was definitely not as good. So as long as we can like meet in the middle there, I think it'll be okay.
Is it like a prequel thing? Like
Yeah.
I didn't really. Okay, that's the deal with it. All right, yeah, because I didn't really get the tone of it during the Super Bowl, and it was like, oh, here's the ad, and then here's Larry David talking about crypto, and I didn't keep track of any of the Super Bowl ads really.
Yeah, so I think I'm not like super positive of the premise. So I think Tyler can probably speak on that a little bit more if he wants to, but I think it's like Sauron like getting his power, if I'm not mistaken. So it definitely is a prequel.
The War of the Rings, the creation of the rings, it's an entire second age condensed into one series. So we'll see. I don't quite know. I have the Silmarillion. I have not read it. I've had the other shoot off books that Tolkien has put together. I haven't read it, so I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'm excited for Jeff Bezos to spend $500 million on that for me to not watch it.
Yeah, I do not have Amazon Prime TV, but with Thursday Night Football going there, I'm probably going to have to get that. So we'll see. Broadcast money these days, by the way, just
man,
stupid, ridiculous. Troy Aikman getting 17.5 for ESPN. Sean McVay leaving $100 million on the table from Amazon. Just crazy money right now.
They really spend all that money just for me to mute the TV too.
Why would McVay, I mean, unless you're not comfortable with it, but if he was interested in the job, why would you turn down $20 million a year just to talk on TV? Like, everyone knows you're smart, and you'll be broadcasting to an audience that generally assumes that what you're talking about is correct. Whereas when you're coaching, you lose, there's second guessing, there's tons of stress. Like, take the 20 mil a year and go home.
Well, yeah, I think he was just using that as a leverage play. Yes. I don't think that was ever. Yeah, I mean, I would say the same thing. Like, I'd rather just spend, take $20 million and go to ESPN too. They tried to get Romo a couple of years ago, but now they got another Cowboys quarterback, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. The commentary game feels weak right now. I hope Collinsworth doesn't have a job next year, but we'll see.
Yeah, there really aren't like a ton of good commentators, and Pat McAfee pointed out that like, why aren't any of the big networks like contacting Kirk Herbstreit about this? Because, I think he can be a little insufferable at certain points, but I mean, he's better than Aikman and all these guys, in my opinion.
Pass. Pass on Kirk Herbstreit.
Alex just wants to watch the Manning cast and call it good.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to watch the Manning for everything. But yeah, no, I don't know. Like, Romo's good. Everyone else is pretty, well, they're all overpaid, but I don't know. None of the others really strike me as good.
I don't know. I like Greg Olsen on Fox, and I like Charles Davis on CBS, but all of the big guys, I'm just like, it's just really hard to listen to Chris Collinsworth for a whole game. And, the Lewis Riddick and Brian Greasy dynamic was a little much for me. I think they should have just gone with Lewis last year, but oh well. All right, let's get to some football questions. Michael Preferred asked this one earlier, wanted to get to it. What do you think the odds are that we get a new punter? And he says, hopefully the one from San Diego State. So obviously Ryan Ficken comes in as a new special teams coordinator. Alex pointed out in his initial video that one of the things that Ficken did initially with the Vikings was kind of swap out the old crew, bring in a new crew. It's totally possible to me that they do explore an option at punter. They should at least, at the very minimum, bring in some competition for Ty Long, who is a restricted free agent. But Alex, I'll let you answer this one first. What do you think about the chances that they add a punter in the draft? And any thoughts on Matt Araiza so far?
I don't have a ton of thoughts on Matt Araiza. I haven't really watched him, but everyone keeps talking about him. I mean, he's from San Diego State, so a lot of Chargers fans have seen him. I'm sure he's good. I don't know if I'd want to spend like a draft pick on him for a punter, but I definitely think they're going to bring in some competition for Ty Long. there was definitely a decline in him this year, and just, how much he was getting on his punts, just some weird shanks sometimes too. And so I feel like they definitely need to get some competition in that building. And, you have a new special teams coordinator, kind of the time to, not clean out everyone on the roster. Obviously, you probably are bringing Dustin Hopkins back. You're probably bringing Andre Roberts back. We'll see in free agency. But yeah, Tai Long just, it doesn't seem like he's kind of long for LA right now.
That's funny.
Oh, that was unintentional. Fuck. I didn't even mean to say that.
No, that was fantastic. I'm so proud of you for unintentionally doing that.
I hate that I just made a Tyler joke.
Yes. All right. So I do think they'll do what they did with Cyphries and Kaiser, where they brought Cyphries back. Or no, I think he was still on the team. Then they went to the draft. They drafted Kaiser. I think they cut Cyphries like the next day or something. So I think they could do something like that. To me, if you're asking me, if Ariza is there, if he's there in the 6th round, it's like Gilman, Roundtree, good punter. I'm going to take the good punter all day long. And also, I think it is worth mentioning that he is working with Nick Novak right now, who is not a punter, but he's working with him. The guy that worked with Novak last year, for better or worse, was Vizcaino, and he obviously joined the Chargers. I know it's not the same situation. It's different positions, but I do think there is kind of a relationship there that could be explored. So Ariza working with Nick Novak could be something there.
Yeah, Ariza feels like somebody who was initially like really hot in terms of the draft stock. Kind of seems like after the All-Star games that's kind of died down a little bit. Really seems like this punter class in general is really good. I mean, I don't know all their names yet, obviously. I haven't studied punters, but there's a Colorado State punter, there's a Penn State punter, even the one from Alabama or Georgia, I think, was pretty good at the Senior Bowl. So honestly, like, they're punters. I probably will not study them. I don't know shit about punting. But I think they could certainly draft one. I mean, they have 4 7th-round picks this year, most likely. That has not been 100% confirmed yet. Apparently supposed to be happening soon in terms of the comp picks. So, I mean, the Chargers are going to have 3 of the last 5 picks, most likely, in the draft. They use one of those on a punter, like, so be it. I'm not like super into the idea of spending, a 4th or 5th round pick on a punter. I know some people are really into that idea. That's personally not me. I think this team has several needs where they need to bolster the roster. And, I think Roundtree or a punter, I totally get that conversation, but I still think that you'd rather have like Chris Rumpf or Brendan Hymas over a punter. So I'm not there yet, but I think certainly they'll bring in some competition. Ficken had some interesting comments about the special teams overall. He seemed to indicate that he does want Overton and Roberts and Dustin Hopkins back. But, they also mentioned Cordell Patterson in that same quote. So we'll kind of see what happens there. It feels like Hopkins is the most likely to return. I mean, we only had him for 10 games or whatever. He was really good. He wasn't like great, but obviously probably one of the best kickers that we've had, in a very long time on this team. So I feel like Hopkins is the most safe to return at this point in terms of the specialists.
Yeah, I agree with that. Whether you can find someone better at a higher ceiling, maybe, but they did that. They didn't bring back Vizcaino on a futures contract or whatever, which I thought was very interesting. So yeah, that does suggest they are all in on Hopkins, and there's nobody really else out there that can hit 88%. If that's all he can hit, 88%, 50-50 from 50 plus, I can live with that. Like, I'll take that. I don't want the mystery box. Like, give me the $5. I don't need the mystery box. I'll take the sure thing right now.
Yeah, I think Hopkins is probably the most likely one to return. I'm curious to see how the free agency for Andre Roberts goes more than anything else, because I feel like there's a lot of teams that could use him, just as an upgraded returner, another Pro Bowl season. So I'll be curious to see if he's kind of in the plans to be brought back with a new special teams coordinator, new scheme, kind of everything like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, the Vizcaino thing really kind of, to me, points out that he was Swinton's guy. Like, that was his dude. So unfortunately probably cost him his job. All right, interesting question here from Andre Fernan. How would you guys feel about letting Mike Williams walk and signing JC Jackson and then drafting a receiver in the first round? So obviously Sean Merriman today, tweeting about JC Jackson and potentially going to the Chargers. There was that quote from JC Jackson earlier this week that he doesn't really feel wanted in New England. All of the New England reporters and the Pro Football Focus reporters seem to think that JC Jackson is simply going to get tagged, that this is kind of Bill Belichick's mantra for negotiating deals. He doesn't negotiate until it's actually time to negotiate. So we'll see if JC Jackson actually hits free agency. But Tyler, what do you think about this specific scenario?
I am for this scenario. It obviously depends on which receiver they want to go. I don't think it has to be as one-to-one as, let Mike Williams go, get Drake London sort of thing. I think they can go in a number of directions there. But yeah, JC Jackson, like if you're telling me, let Williams walk and then sign DJ Chark, it's like for, 12 million. But if you're telling me let Williams walk and basically use that same thing for JC Jackson, and then you can go wide receiver in the first round and then some sort of defensive tackle in the second round. I just think it's tough to let Mike Williams go, and I understand both sides of it. I've tried to play both sides of this as best as I could, but at the end of the day, it is just I would like Original One says in the chat here, I would rather pay JC Jackson than Mike Williams, and I think at this point, paying a corner is better than paying a wide receiver. I get the connection to Herbert, I get the risks that's there, but to me, I think I'd rather risk a wide receiver pairing with Herbert in the first round than risk a corner trying to pair with his defense in the first round. Like I think if you have Justin Herbert, and considering how fast he gelled with Williams, with Allen, with Johnson, with Henry, with Eckler, I think if you get a guy in the first round, especially if you feel like you can use him creatively or even more so than Mike Williams, we'll see. I'd rather just let Herbert gel with someone in the first round over gambling on Trent McDuffie trying to gel over someone like JC Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for the idea in general. Not gonna happen. I mean, they're tagging Mike Williams, so I mean that's where we are with it. Unless we somehow get to March 9th and then Mike Williams is no longer a Charger, like at that point, then I think we could start discussing it. But in terms of the receivers that are left in round one, kind of depends on which guy you're getting to me. Like I love Jameson Williams. We talked about him in the draft, but like doesn't seem like he's going to be able to play the first 8 games, which would be a big problem if you're trying to replace Mike Williams. If you're trying to go get Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, that's a bit of a different conversation, but even they don't necessarily they're definitely not 1-for-1 fits with what Mike Williams' skill set is and how, Justin Herbert and Joe Lombardi have used them over his tenure. So I get the idea of letting Mike Williams walk and using that money for somewhere else, which I think sounds good in theory. But in actuality, I just don't think it plays out like that. And I don't think they're going to let Mike Williams walk, both for, just asset protection. And also, I don't think Justin Herbert wants Mike Williams to walk.
Yeah, I know. That's my thinking really a lot with a lot of the whole Mike Williams thing. And, I wrote an article about it being a mistake for the Chargers to let Mike Williams walk. And I think you're asking a lot of Justin Herbert to continually turn over his supporting cast. And I totally get the concerns about Mike Williams. I think some of his inconsistencies was related to scheme. We all watched the film of the first Raiders game, and he was open all day long, and it was just kind of a tight end game. I don't really blame Williams for not getting targeted against the Raiders when he was open all day long against Trayvon Mullen or whoever was covering him. So I totally get the concerns. I just think that with Justin Herbert being your most important asset right now, you have to kind of keep some semblance of continuity around him. And so after his first year, you take his coaching staff, you take his offensive line, you take his tight end away from him. Then the next year, you take his second wide receiver away from him. Austin Eckler is a free agent after the 2023 season. So it just kind of, goes spiraling downwards at this point of okay, how much of his supporting cast can Justin Herbert stand to lose? And so for me, I just think you want to keep that intact. And obviously, 1-for-1, I'd rather have JC Jackson. I think he's a better corner than Williams is a better receiver. But I just think supporting Justin Herbert is the most important thing right now. And, letting Mike Williams walk, to me, is counterintuitive to maximizing Justin Herbert's ability.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wish that they had, I mentioned this on Twitter. I know everybody wants us to move on from the topic, but like I said, I wish that Tyron Johnson was still on the team because this decision would be easier. At worst, they have a wide receiver 3 there, but it just felt like, with Palmer, with Johnson, they had this plan. if Williams were to cost too much. And now it's just like, I guess we have to bring him back. And that's fine. Like, I'm not against them bringing him back. It's just I wish they didn't have to pigeonhole themselves into this specific scenario.
No, I mean, you're spot on there, because we've talked about Telesco's inability to be proactive, leaving this team in a bind. Like, if Joe Reed or KJ Hill had panned out and you add Palmer, who's panning out, like, then you're having a different conversation, right? But they traded up to get Kenneth Murray. They could have kept that second round pick and taken a receiver in the third round. Maybe that guy pans out, but they don't have a viable replacement plan on the roster. I think we all like Josh Palmer, but he's not ready to be a wide receiver too. Like, he's just not. And, say in this scenario, you take a receiver in round 1, again, there's no guarantee that player becomes a viable receiver 2 right away. I tweeted this out. Not every first round pick is a Jamar Chase, is a Justin Jefferson. Sometimes you get a Jalen Reagor in there. Sometimes you get a Kadarius Toney in there. Sometimes you get Jerry Jeudy, who frankly has been a disappointment. So I think everybody trying to replace Mike Williams just kind of needs to pump the brakes a little bit and realize what they have. Like, known commodities for me are always more important. They're always more valuable than, can you replace him with DJ Chark? Can you replace him with a draft pick? You don't really know. Like, there's just so much uncertainty in this wide receiver class, both in free agency and in the draft, that I would rather just know what I have in Mike Williams and keep rolling with this group.
At least for one more year. I think the tag is a great balance between, like, we're kind of stuck with this situation, but we don't want to commit for 4 years, $100 million or whatever it is. So I think tag is the perfect way to go. I think this discussion is really going to be happening next season.
Yeah, no, I agree. Tyler said his piece about Tyron Johnson, and he got his propaganda in, so I agree.
Absolutely. Certainly showed some great special teams value for the Raiders. All right, shout out to our guy Envy Talent, one of the big longtime supporters of the show. Ask a good question here. Is this the type of draft that you're better off trading down for more picks? And this is interesting timing. Obviously, Daniel Jeremiah had his annual press conference, if you will, with the media yesterday. If you missed it, there's a lot of great information in there. And one of the things that he said is that there's really isn't a ton of difference for him between player 15 and player 60 in terms of grades. Like, he feels like that this is really a depth class. And so I absolutely think, like, I'm always in favor of trading down. Like, you get more picks, you get more chances, more dart throws. But this draft in particular, like, if I can get 2 second-round picks from trading down, I am in favor of that. So, I know that there's a ton of scenarios out there. We'll see about the quarterback class, but if there's no quarterbacks taken in the top 15 and somebody wants to move ahead of the Saints, who absolutely need a quarterback, then I'm definitely in favor of the Chargers trading down. If they can get an additional second-round pick, I think that is ideal for this draft. You get 2 quality players in the second round, maybe an offensive tackle, maybe corner, whatever, different combinations, but absolutely in favor of trading down this year.
Generally in favor of trading down. It'll depend on how the draft in front of them works out. Like, I don't want them to do it until they absolutely know they can get away with trading down.
Yeah,
it depends on what they, but it depends on what they want. Like, to me, based on the edge guys that I'm watching at this point, they're not going to get Thibodeau. They're not going to get Hutchinson, but some combination of either Johnson, Ojabo, Karlaftis, Walker, one of those guys might be there at 17. And to me, like, if one of those guys is there, or McDuffie or Booth are there, or freaking Gardner, if he happens to be there, if that's their target, if they want to go with a premium corner pick or edge pick, then I'm in favor of staying right there to make sure you get the guy that kind of sneaks out of that top 15. But if they're like, hey, I want wide receiver, defensive tackle, offensive tackle at 17, which are some of them are premium positions, sure, but like, I would move back a little bit. So it just kind of depends on what they'd like to do at 17, or at least in the first round.
Depends what they want to do at 17. Also, I mean, they already have 11 picks or whatever.
Right.
I mean, at some point, I think you can make the argument for trading down and why it makes sense, but it also depends, like we said, what happens in front of them. Just to give an example, right? Like, the Eagles, when they traded down last year, knew that there were going to be 5 teams in the top 15 that took a quarterback. And so they were like, okay, we're cool with Devonta Smith if we get an extra first round pick from Miami, right? So you could kind of not really create that scenario, I feel like, in this class, right? I mean, you're probably only going to have like Pickett and Willis go top 17. I think that those are going to be the only 2 quarterbacks. And then, probably all those position players, like we kind of talked about, are going to be gone. So I don't know, like it depends on the player you want to take too. Like if the Chargers, for some reason were really into like Jordan Davis or something like that, then, that could be a situation where you trade for Stephen made his eyes roll. That could be a situation where the Chargers, trade back 8-10 picks. Maybe you get something for them, and somebody, the Steelers want to trade up for a quarterback or something. But yeah, no, I think they do need talent and particular talent infusion. We're talking about the quarterbacks, secondary, edge players like Tyler just mentioned. I think there's an argument for it, but for me, they already kind of have 11 picks, a lot of picks in later rounds. I don't see much utility in it, especially if they're going to be signing 11 draft picks to the roster, and B, there's not going to be a lot of quarterbacks who push a lot of players down, in my opinion.
Yeah, did you guys see the Jordan Love quote this week? I guess there's a lot of evaluators around the league that would think that Jordan Love would be QB1 in this draft, which is just kind of it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I haven't watched any of these quarterbacks, and nor do I plan on watching them. But
nope.
I mean, yeah, maybe he definitely has at least the raw talent, and yeah, I mean, I could see that, sure.
Yeah, this quarterback class, man. Like, I mean, if the Chargers needed a quarterback, I'd probably be more into studying them. But I don't see it with any of these guys from what I'm hearing. So we'll see. In terms of the Chargers picking at 17, Daniel Jeremiah was asked about which edge rushers would be in range of the Eagles. And of course, by extension, that would also include the Chargers range. And so basically what he was saying, from what I can gather, he thinks obviously Hutchinson, Thibodeau are going to be gone. He thinks that Trayvon Walker is going to be a 10 pick based on what he has been hearing and how he's expected to test. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion there, but to me, he's kind of a tweener. So I feel like that's a little bit rich for me. And then he also thinks that Jermaine Johnson will be gone by the time the Eagles pick at 15. So that's apparently the pecking order in terms of the edge rushers before the combine, at least. So he kind of thinks that those top 4 will be gone, and the Eagles / Chargers would be looking at a George Karlaftis, a David Ojabo, and then potentially probably the third corner, because he thinks that Sauce and Stingley will both be gone by then. So I had to think about his name for a second, but that's kind of the pecking order, at least according to Daniel Jeremiah, from what he's been hearing.
I'm not surprised that Ojabo's not high up there, but I kind of am. Like, you see what the traits are that are there, and I would assume someone would go for it. I'm curious what the Chargers would do if Ojabo and Walker were on the board, because I feel like with Ojabo, you get a much, much better edge rusher, pass rusher. But is that what they want? Do they want to go with one of those bigger edge, tweener edge defensive tackle hybrids who are better against the run at that point? But yeah, Walker getting top 10 buzz. He mock drafted him to the Giants at 5. If anyone's going to take him early, it is the Giants for sure. I don't like, he doesn't have a first round grade for me. And so I don't really buy him going top 5, let alone like top 10 as well. But yeah.
I haven't studied him. Like I've just kind of watched him in passing as I've studied Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and all these guys. Right. But also just crazy how many Georgia defensive players are going to go in the first 2 rounds. It's just wild. But I have a hard time envisioning Walker as like a 3-4 outside linebacker and doing like the same kind of role as Uchenna Nwosu does. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, to me, like if I draft him on the Chargers, like he's going to be more of a 4-eye, 5 technique, Jerry Tillery, Justin Jones type for me, just kind of based off of what I've seen so far, than sticking him on the edge. And of course, like, sure, he can do that from time to time, but I don't know if I really am into the idea of the Chargers drafting him. Whereas David Ojabo, absolutely a 3-4 outside linebacker, absolutely has that ability. It's basically what he did at Michigan. So haven't really studied George Karlaftis yet, but same kind of thing. Like, I just don't know if he's that kind of athlete, that kind of bendy, twitchy player that the Chargers are really looking for in terms of outside linebacker. So if David Ojabo is there, I think that's probably my preference. It's right now it's him or Andrew Booth, kind of my guys at that spot. But we'll see how that changes over the next few weeks.
It's a fun hypothetical, but Tom Telesco only trades one way, and that's up. So yeah,
yes.
he's not traded back in this draft. I wouldn't rule out him trading up. Actually, I don't think that's a crazy thing. If someone like Sauce, is still on the board or something like that, I don't think they'll do it. But if he did just do it with the Kenneth Murray draft, didn't work out there. But yeah, no, I don't think the Chargers would trade down really in any first round scenario. But like to be proven wrong.
Yeah, he's never traded down before. So everybody made a huge deal about David Gettleman trading down last year. I feel like that'd be the same thing with Tom Telesco. So, I mean, like I said on our show on Thursday, if Charles Cross is there and you feel like you can trade up and get him, Jermaine Johnson, same thing. I think Sauce, same thing. Then by all means, go for it. So, just my kind of thing. And so, there was a very surprising contract handed out by the Carolina Panthers this week. With Ian Thomas. James C wants to know if we feel like the Panthers extension for Thomas, which I think was 3 years, $16 million, if I'm not mistaken, if that has raised the market for tight end. So, Alex, what do you think about the way that that's going to affect the tight end world?
Yeah, Zach Ertz and Gronk, if he wants to play, they're just laughing to the bank right now. That's I don't know. That contract is a little bit wild. As far as how it affects the tight end market, yeah, I mean, all those guys kind of have their prices go up, but in a sense, we kind of knew that was going to happen anyway because salary cap's going up $28 million, and all these guys were kind of going to be getting more compared to the tight end market last year, which I felt like outside of Hunter Henry and even his market was a little bit, I think, decreased compared to some of the top predictions for it being like 14, 15 million. So yeah, no, I definitely think this market is going to be less depressed for the tight ends than the last one was, and there's going to be guys who can take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, I'm almost willing to bet it's just kind of an anomaly thing where the Panthers just like, if I'm not getting into broadcasting one day, and I'm going to go be a Panthers tight end because apparently
just Panthers anybody, man.
Yes, apparently, unless you want to coach, because then you have to bow down to the rule over there. But yeah, you'll make $5.5 million a year to be a blocking tight end. So I'm more curious what that does for Steven Anderson's contract. I know he's not a inline tight end really at this point. He's more that hybrid fullback sort of type. I don't think he'll be that expensive. Anderson's probably much older at this point and kind of just like that veteran that you throw around the league. No offense, Steven. But yeah, the Njoku projections of like $7 million on Spotrac, or however you say it, like it's not going to happen. Like these guys aren't going to push 12, $13 million. I'm mildly still in favor of it because it feels like an all-in season. If you can find a way to negotiate an extension or a restructure, and you can afford an Njoku or a Schultz or even a Gesicki, I'm still okay with that price, but it is going to be very expensive. And but that might change because I haven't done homework on the tight ends in this class. And if there's just a bunch of good dudes from rounds 2 to 5 or whatever, then never mind.
Yeah, this tight end group, because like the way that obviously the market works out, right, is that every year these good tight ends are going to reset the market. So everybody wants Mike Gesicki, but that man is going to sign for more money than Hunter Henry got. Like that's just how it's going to work. And he wants to be played like a wide receiver. I was reading this article on PFF, by the way. Did you guys know that Alan Lazard has more reps as an inline blocker than Mike Gesicki does?
Wow, let's give Gesicki 17 mil, bro.
So, like, I know that everybody wants Mike Gesicki because he's like the flashy name right now in terms of tight ends, but like he's gonna get like $14-15 million. I would expect Njoku to get at least 11, just kind of based off of what we're hearing there. So maybe Ian Thomas's contract extension doesn't have a huge effect on the market, but that makes all the other guys more money. Like Alex just mentioned, Zach Ertz and Gronk, right? Like they can't sign for less than Ian Thomas. Like that's just not how things work. So maybe it doesn't affect like the top guys as much as Hunter Henry's previous contract does, but it absolutely affects players below him or around him in that same range.
Yeah. We do have a couple of super chat questions I want to roll through real fast.
David O 17 or trade back in the first for Jordan Davis. So I guess I can.
Steven, what do you think on this one?
I guess I can get behind taking a defensive nose tackle if I get another second round pick, but no, I'm like, generally speaking, unless every edge or corner is gone in this scenario, then I'm not taking Jordan Davis.
How far back in the first are we trading back? Do we get to 32 and get Jordan Davis? Because then I'd be kind of okay with that.
Trade back 15 spots.
Yeah, let's do it.
Give us 32 and 33, and then I guess I'll be okay with taking Jordan Davis at 32.
Wait, the Lions have the 32nd pick, right? Because because they traded with the Rams. So
I guess it would be 32 and 34.
So yeah, the Lions in this scenario are trading up 15 spots for Kenny Pickett, and
someone pointed out in the chat. I think Jason means take David O at 17 and then trade back into the first for Jordan Davis. No. I like Jordan Davis a lot, but I'm not trading up again.
Just give me Travis Jones in the second for this case. I mean, I think he's probably a better prospect anyway. So
last time we traded.
Sorry, Arjun, I know you're watching. Did you win the championship? Did your team win? They're out doing like a salary cap debate thing.
Ooh.
For Villanova's debate something. I'm sorry, Arjun, I didn't pay attention.
I didn't understand what Arjun was saying champions to. I didn't know if it was that or the flag football games he plays every week.
How's the 10-year-olds that you're dominating every week, Arjun, out in Michigan? How's
Arjun just posts some stat line one week that's like, yo, I had 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. And I'm like, what was your average depth of target, dude? You didn't even calculate this shit for me. But I've liked Arjun's pickup games on Twitter.
3 undergrads versus law students, and we won. Wow, good job, Arjun.
Let's go.
Look at that. I'll tell you what, man. I was making a video about like Harrison Smith and all those free agent signings and the safeties that are available. It's so cool to have Arjun just throw out like the Shannon Entropy score, and then we get to use that on our show and in our evaluations and all that. Like having just a different angle and being so much more well informed is awesome. So Arjun, congratulations to you and your team. It was you and Tej, and was there somebody else? It must have been somebody else's 3 undergrads. But anyway, congratulations, Arjun.
Yeah, congrats, Arjun. Arjun's doing fantastic work. Of course, if you missed his PFF article on projecting where certain free agents will sign, go check that out. Really did some great work there. And we were texting back and forth with him the other day about safeties. And it was like, here's a graph for this guy. Here's a graph for this guy. Here's a graph for this guy. I was like, let's go, Arjun. I love it. Definitely makes things easier for us. Other super chat question here. Shout out to Sebastian. German last name. I'm sorry, I'm not going to try and butcher that one, but he says we are planning on starting a German Chargers podcast. Any advice for us? So obviously, I think this is fantastic. The way that the NFL is continuing to grow the sport across the pond, if you will. I think it was announced that the Buccaneers and Chiefs are going to be playing in Munich, which is going to be awesome for them. Obviously, I think they would prefer the Chargers to be there, but that is a great international event for this country of Germany. So, Alex, any advice for them as it relates to starting a Chargers podcast?
No, because I'm not the one that started the podcast. I just hopped on the gravy train. I didn't do too much in that regard, but have fun. If you need a guest, I'm always willing to come on. I'm willing to bury the World War II hatchet with my Jewish people. So I'll hop on the show.
Jeez. Oh my God.
I saw the German Chargers podcast question, and I was waiting on that for like 5 minutes, dude.
You got him back, Alex. You're even now. You got him.
I don't know if I've made up like 12 million deaths, but like
Jesus.
Sebastian, my advice to you is to be as genuine as possible. Some people love and like be even keeled. I think some people relish the fact that they are too negative. Some people relish the fact that they are too positive. Be somewhere in the middle. I think that's worked out for us. Like, I think we do lean more positive. But at the end of the day, we try to do everything as objectively as we can. And I mean, we've freaking hired an analytics guy to be as objective as possible. So yeah, just be authentic, be yourself. If it works out, fantastic. And just make sure you're doing it because you love it. If you're looking for the numbers or to reach a certain thing, might not work out. But like if you're just doing it because you love it, I think people will really follow that. And then last but not least, make sure you invest upfront as much as you can in a microphone, in your lighting, in your background, into giveaways, into Patreon, whatever it is. If you want to start it and you do want to try to grow as fast as possible, make sure you invest upfront, because I know when we first started, it made a big difference that we had better equipment and we're a little bit better prepared. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Tyler. I think being able to look at the big picture has really been able to help the three of us, and Arjun and Jason when he was on here as well. And I just think, you got to find your own way to make it a unique podcast, because I feel like all the Chargers podcasts out there bring something different to the table. And so you just got to figure out what works for you. And like Tyler said, just put everything you can into the podcast in terms of your time and effort, and I think it'll all work out. And just be interactive on social media. Like, I think that was really one of the focuses for us. We had looked at other podcasts that just like, hey, here's our episode, and it's like all they do. And so being interactive on social media has helped us, and I think that is probably what I would recommend as well. And yes, absolutely happy to be a guest on your show anytime.
And don't lie. We hate lying.
Definitely
don't lie, make things up. Like, just always be true.
All right, so let's get into some other ones. Yeah, Craig said that the graphic that Arjun posted definitely validated his Jabril Peppers take. The Chargers are loosely connected there. I think, they're contacting the Browns there. Tyler kind of mentioned this in his own video, so I don't want to, steal everything, but I think there is at least a little smoke to potentially signing Jabril Peppers, and I think that would fit great with what they are wanting to do.
Yeah, I could live with that. They've done a ridiculous amount of homework on versatile safeties at this point. I just interviewed the fourth versatile safety that they've talked to so far. So they're looking at something. Again, they could look at the Harrison Smith name was a real surprise name drop, but it really does seem like they're trying to find someone to upgrade over Gilman. Like, they're trying to find anything they can to not make Gilman their third safety, it feels like.
Yeah, and shout out to Jason Greer with another super chat here. Well wishes on the German podcast show, so it's always exciting. Yeah, I think they have to add somebody, because I think you look at Alohi Gilman, hasn't really been on the field, mixed results when he has been. Mark Webb, you don't know what you have there. So I really think that Brandon Staley wants to play a lot more dime going forward, and you have to have a reliable third safety to do that. And so, that's kind of why we're in favor of signing somebody or drafting somebody early. I really like Jalen Petre from Baylor. Daxton Hill from Michigan is somebody that I think really flashes on tape as well, but he's probably a first rounder at this point, it sounds like. So the Chargers adding another safety, whether that's early, mid rounds, I think makes a lot of sense. And then, adding another one free agency if they want to as well.
Sorry, I've been reading questions. I'm trying to look for more stuff.
Interesting question from Todd here. Which draft boards do you feel are most accurate? So
mine, obviously.
Yeah, mine.
I think there's a lot of, everybody uses a different site. There's the Mock Draftable website, there's Pro Football Network, there's the Draft Network, and then there's, of course, Pro Football Focus. I kind of lean towards Pro Football Focus and the Draft Network. The Pro Football Network kind of gets all over the place, and that one you can just like trade a ton of draft picks, which people will send me mock drafts and there's like 17 trades in there, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what you want me to make of this. Like, of course I would love to have 5 second-round picks, but so I feel like the Draft Network does a really good job of having an accurate board, and I think Pro Football Focus as well. Although PFF does have Charles Cross as OT1, so I don't know. Like, there's a balance, is what I'm trying to say. But use multiple sites, use whatever you like. Like I said, I'm a fan of the Draft Network and PFF.
Yeah, I feel like the thing with big boards in general is not to get too invested into like any specific one and kind of like just average them out as well. Like if one big board has them at 13, if one big board has them at 17, like the answer is probably like somewhere kind of in the middle, right? That's just sort of how I view big board in general. Obviously, there's a lot more than just like two, but yeah, no, I think that's just kind of how you go about it. Just consult a number of sources and don't get too invested into like mock draft articles that are just like, Mel Kiper says whatever, because Mel Kiper just gets paid to be wrong all the time. But I think that in general, just big boards, just read as much as you can and get as educated as you can. And then, like you said, the answer is kind of always kind of in the middle with where a specific prospect is probably going to go.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to read off Pro Football Focus's top 15. Let's see what you guys think about this, okay? So Aiden Hutchinson, then Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley, Kayvon Thibodeau, then Charles Cross, Ike Mikwanu, Evan Neal, Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Drake London, Ahmad Gardner, Tyler Linderbaum, Garrett Wilson, Devin Lloyd, and at number 15, Bernhard Raymond.
Well, yeah, I have my thoughts on Bernhard Raymond. But anyway, no, Sauce Gardner is CB3. Wrong.
Yeah.
Trent McDuffie is a little high for my taste. And I think Cross is probably a little high as much as I like him. I don't know, man. Like I said, I feel like there's a balance, but Kyle Hamilton at 2 is very interesting. I think that's kind of where I'll probably land once I get to the safeties. But yeah, I personally love that PFF is as big of fans as safeties as they are, because there's still like this weird narrative that safeties are not valuable. But I think we all know how valuable Derwin James is, and I think we're seeing, Tyrann Mathieu prove his value, and all these guys. I mean, Harrison Smith has been great for years, so that is definitely something from PFF that I appreciate.
Yeah, Derwin James being arguably, I think he is defensive MVP over one of the best edge rushers in the league, and Joey Bosa on this team, like, just speaks to how much a safety can do. And if Kyle Hamilton's as good as people say, like, Owusu Koramoto was my number 1 defensive player last season, and so Kyle Hamilton, like, if he's better than that, like, man, I can't wait to watch him.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch him either. And I just think the concept of like a Derwin James, but he's Catholic is interesting. But yeah, we'll see how he plays on the field. Hope he comes out with a lot of aggression.
Do we know
Kyle
that
Hamilton
Derwin's
is also
Catholic?
Asian?
He's also
Asian?
That's
right.
Oh,
thank God, we're doing it.
I also learned that Sam Howell is like an 8th Korean or something, according to the Times at least.
Yeah.
And I guess Kyler Murray is too.
Yeah,
okay, so I didn't know that, but I could totally see that. Like, I just assumed that
Envy Talent with a super chat. Shout out to Envy. He wants to know if there's any chance that we would call a game live. Like, I would love to do that. That's always been a dream of mine. Definitely not an NFL game. I think that is definitely out of reach, but I don't know, maybe a high school football game once in a while these days. I don't know.
No, let's do an NFL game. Let's pick the worst, like, awful game and just let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we could always do like a stream or something. I know some people have asked us, like, would you do a stream of a game and, kind of do like live commentary over it? But no, I don't ever want to do like the Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, but it's the 3 of us shitbags doing it. Like, I don't think it would make sense. But
the GAC cast. There we go.
The GAC cast. Yeah. I think we could
the whole team a GAC bump at once. Whatever we need. Just like...
I think whatever Monday Night Football game the Chargers have next year, we should definitely do the GAC cast to compete with the Manning cast, and then do a post game show after.
I think Alex already flips me off, so we're halfway there.
Yeah, the Manning cast
getting violations on YouTube.
I know the Manning cast getting 40 million viewers, and we get 45,
55.
56.
There we go.
57.
So I don't know. Edwin Martinez wants to know Sebastian Joseph Day or Folorunzu Fatukasi. If either are available, do you guys have a preference?
Is Fatukasi the Jets nose tackle?
Yeah.
I wrote down what his projection was. I hear good things about him. I just don't know much about him. Sounds like he's been a good run defender for them. So I believe he's less expensive.
I think they're around the same. Yeah, maybe a little bit less, but I think they're pretty close to 8 per year each.
I mean, gun to my head, if they're basically similar players, I'm taking the one that's more familiar with Brandon Staley. But yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to it. He's a name that I wrote down for tomorrow's free agent episode if we got to it.
What are their ages? I don't know how old they both are. They're similar.
I think they're both like 26, 27. Like they're both coming off of their rookie contracts.
Okay. Well, for some reason I thought Sebastian Joseph Day was older. I don't know, but yeah, no, I like Fatukasi quite a bit. I probably would take him over Joseph Day, but also there's the familiarity thing that you can't ignore, like Tyler said. But I remember when someone told me to watch him before I did watch tape, someone was like, bro, you got to watch Folorenzo Fatukasi. I'm like, you guys are just making up names at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any strong opinions on Fatukasi. I think he's probably a little more durable, been a little bit more durable. Obviously, Joseph Day had that torn pec from last season. I think he had like a little hamstring issue in 2019. So maybe that kind of leans that way. But I mean, we'll get to more free agency stuff on our episode tomorrow. But I mean, Sebastian Joseph Day just feels like a no-brainer to me. I mean, he's got the coaching connections, he's got the scheme fit, he's got the money fit. He's in line with their age projections. Like, I think he's probably not back on the Rams next year because they want to bring everybody else back. They want to give Aaron Donald a raise. So I feel like he's most likely to hit the market out of their free agents. So I don't know. We'll talk more about that tomorrow.
I do like how people are talking about, oh, we don't want Akeem Hicks because he's like injured and on the decline and he's over 30. But like, we want Von Miller, even though he's over 30 and has been injured. Like, very different. I get that Von Miller is probably a better player at this point as an edge and more valuable. But like, people are ruling out Hicks because of his injuries and age. But like, why not Von Miller?
No problem for me. Get both of them.
Yeah, why not?
Get all the good players. We're not picky.
Players.
Just sign all the players.
All the good players. Von Miller, Sebastian Joseph Day, Akeem Hicks. Zach Ertz too. Just give him $14 million. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. Tyrann Mathieu, JC Jackson, Von Miller. They're all available. Like, just get all of them. Jason Greer, another super chat, wants to know if we had to go tackle in the first round, who's the best fit? So we did our offensive tackle breakdown on Thursday. If you missed the whole episode, go check that out. In terms of scheme fit of the first round guys that are getting the hype, like, I feel like it's Bernard Raymond in terms of the scheme fit. I feel like he kind of fits the archetype of tackle that they want. But I'm not into that idea of taking him at 17.
Like, are we talking about the tackles that are remaining? Like the ones we assume that are going to be there at 17?
Yes.
Okay, so of the big three that are gone, no. So
yeah, like Charles Cross is definitely a fit.
Sure.
I still doubt that he's there.
Right.
It's either Raymond or Penning. I'd probably go Penning just because I like him more in the upside there. But then the problem there is, like, I don't think he's a day one starter kind of guy. And then, you have the penalty problems and technique issues that have to kind of be fixed and associated with it. But I guess if you put a gun to my head and said you have to pick a tackle, I'd probably take him.
Yeah, I feel like Kennard is almost the answer here for some reason, just in the off chance that they kick him inside to guard at some point.
Well, I mean, like, I would feel more comfortable with Kennard starting from day one than the other guys because I feel like he's more of a finished product. But I think you probably are looking at somebody who kicks into guard at least at some point in his career. I know what he's a really, really good run blocker, and I think he's presents less technique issues, but I don't think he has like the upside of the other guys. So yeah, the three of us are not into taking an offensive tackle in the first round, and that really says a lot coming from me, the offensive line guy, that I'm just like, I'm not about it. So kind of gives you an indication of where we're at with this class.
Next one from Christian Farmer. Who do you think could drastically change their draft stock off the combine? Any quarterbacks? I don't know much about the quarterbacks, honestly.
Of the quarterbacks, no. Like, I mean, Kenny Pickett, I feel like the quarterback class in general is like really solidified. At this point, barring a disastrous showing from Malik Willis, I feel like it's Pickett and Willis 1 and 2. But I don't know. In terms of the combining elevating status, I think you're looking at like receivers and corners who just really test like freaks. Like apparently Jahan Dotson is going to run like a 4.3. And if that really happens, then I think that elevates things. And, given the questions of health with like a Jameson Williams and George Pickens and Mechie, then I think if Dotson really does run a 4.3, then he's got an argument for like a back end of the first, excuse me.
Yeah.
And the Washington guys, apparently, both of the Washington corners were on Feldman's freak list. So them testing as people think they are will probably help their stock a lot as well. And then there's always like the late round guys that, test like freaks and, probably should be like 6th, 7th rounders and end up being like 3rd rounders because of their athletic traits. So those are in terms of first rounder guys, I think McDuffie, Kyler Gordon, and Jahan Dotson are probably most in line for a stock up, if you will.
Yeah, I'd just say wide receivers and cornerbacks in general, although the wide receiver part of that is hard because it's like, well, Jameson Williams isn't going to be at the combine. And, we already talked about the other receivers who have had knee injuries who might not be there. John Mechie, Pickens will be there. But it's going to be interesting to see, which guys run a 4.3, which guys run a 4.4. That's going to be, the thing every year with the wide receivers. So I think that could definitely change stock. I don't think much changes about the quarterbacks, though. I think the quarterback class, like Steven said, is pretty solidified. Pickett and Willis are going top 17. Don't know what the hell's going on with everyone else.
Yeah. The only name that I think I'd bring up has the most to either lose or gain is Daniel Falele. Like, what do you weigh?
Yeah.
What do you run?
That's a good one.
And that honestly might change his draft stock. Like if he shows up 390 for some reason and he's gained weight and he's obviously not running fast with it, he's going to drop. If he's 375 when he shows up, 380. I think he was 387 at the Senior Bowl.
He was 387 at the Senior Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, so if he's 380, 375, he might go up there. I think just people want to see what he weighs and then how he moves with that weight.
Yeah, Orlando Brown was joking on Twitter the other day that he ran I think it was like a 5, it was like a 6.0 or something like that.
Yeah, he had like
fell in the draft because of it. So, I mean, testing well will absolutely help Daniel Falele for sure. What was Craig pointing out about Jones? Which Jones is he talking about?
Oh, Chandler Jones is an edge rusher.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Last one from Frank here. I probably have to go after this. Higher priority for us, corner or more pass rush? Who is realistic pick at 17 with edge or corner based on what you feel is the highest priority?
This is a depends on free agency answer for me. Like if they do spend money and go after like an edge, whether that means re-signing Chenna or, we talked about going after someone like Von Miller, like that would, change the discussion like a lot and then kind of clearly put it towards cornerback. If they want to go after like a JC Jackson or make a big splash there, then you lean more towards edge. Don't know if either really happens, but, also the depth pieces that they go after in free agency as well. So wait and see. But as of now, I would probably say higher priority is cornerback just because Michael Davis is not, long. I mean, I don't think he's going to be here for very long after this season. Chris Harris is gone, and you really just have ASJ there as kind of a long-term piece. So that's probably, I would say, corner.
I would go corner as well. I know, Steven, you had a conversation that someone expects them to go or thinks they should go corner within the first 2 rounds. So I do think there's something there. But to me, obviously it depends on free agency. If you're telling me that Nwosu's back and you have the 2 corners that you have in Nwosu and Bosa, I think it is corner. I just think at that point, Staley wants, I don't know if it depends on who the corner is. Like if they can move around and they're comfortable playing in slot, either side of the field, whatever, man zone, whatever you need, then I think corner. But if it's just like, I don't know, Kaiir Elam, no offense. Like I don't know if I'm super pumped about them going corner at that point.
Yeah, it's funny. Kaiir Elam was like really hot. It was a really hot name in the fall. I think Dane Brugler had him to the Chargers in the first round in his first mock draft. That has kind of fallen by the wayside. I think in a vacuum, like of course the pass rush is more valuable. The pass rush is more important to a defense's health, if you will. Just kind of what we think based off of what the Chargers will do. I think it is corner in the first round. Assuming Uchenna and Nwosu is back. I was listening to Connor Rogers and Trevor Sikkema's podcast, and they were interviewing this guy who used to play for the Jets, and he was pointing out that most defensive edge rushers outside of like the top tier guys really don't hit their stride until they're like 26, 27 years old. And Uchenna and Nwosu just barely turned 25. So I think that's something to keep in mind in terms of potentially signing him and the contract that we might be looking at for him. But in a vacuum, I think the answer is pass rush. I just think that the Chargers seem likely to, really address the defensive line as a whole in free agency. So I think once it comes after free agency, we'll be looking at corner, offensive tackle, maybe receiver in the first round as possibilities.
Yep. Last one.
All right. Well, this is the last question. How unrealistic is signing JC Jackson? I would put the odds of the Chargers signing him at like 2%. I think that he is going to be franchise tagged by the New England Patriots, and I'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't.
7.43%.
7.44%.
All right. Okay.
I don't think it's very realistic at all. Wish they could, potentially go get him, but the franchise tag, that's the key.
Yeah, Craig pointed out, I wish all the bad things to the people who keep saying CHJ is a must resign. Like, I don't get it, man. I don't understand how anyone can watch the Chargers and be like, Chris Harris, priority resign. Like, let's do it.
That's because no one watches the Chargers. And that's why they say that.
That's very true. That's very true. All of the priority, like all of the media outlets who are saying that, also have Nwosu as like in the others category. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. PFF had like Nwosu at like the 137th ranked free agent. And I was like, what are we doing here? I didn't really understand that much at all.
Yeah. So that is going to do it for us today, guys. We'll be going live tomorrow, of course, as we do our mock free agency episode. So really interested to dive into that, talking about some potential contract extensions, restructuring, cuts, everything like that. And of course, Tyler's got quite a sunglass right there. That's nice. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably be going live in the afternoon-ish before the late evening. So as always, please like and subscribe to the channel. Like the comments. Hello, this is a mess right now. I'm sorry. We're just going to say bye. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.